today we're doing an aerobic threshold run, okay? If you hear me say aerobic threshold, that means easy run. Either a long run or a recovery run. They're the same thing. There's no other reason why you would do an aerobic threshold run for us, okay? You might have a sprinter do aerobic threshold intervals on the track just to get their volume up a little bit more. But for us, it's not really needed. Those are the only two reasons why we would be doing this as distance and middle distance runners. Okay? So we're going to be doing, he usually works on Tuesdays. And we're going to talk about communicating and that kind of thing here in a second. So we're going to run for 45 minutes, which is about 6 miles. Okay? So these are the new paces, guys, from yesterday. Or, like, let's say you went out and you ran like a couple seconds slower. It keeps where you were, essentially, okay? So based on your VO2 max, if you didn't quite get a little bit faster, this is your old pace, but this is the current test on you. Aerobic threshold is right here. Okay, so did everybody take a look at their pace and know what they're running for today?
Or is it the exact same?
I think David's got a little bit faster. Yours got a decent amount faster. But the groups are still the same. Okay? Does everybody know what they're running today? And Lucas, remember how I told you running a 2 mile would bring your pace down a ton? 40 seconds because it was a 2 mile versus a mile. Just because, again, that conversion's not nearly as reliable. Okay? So these are the new paces. Download them, save them to your phone. It's bookmarked on band, so you guys don't really have to do anything but look at it as long as you get internet access, okay? So, these are the paces for today. Let's talk about why it's so important for, let's say, Alex Fry to be 9:55 to 9:15. Not 9:10, not 8:55, okay? If anything, I would prefer Alex to come back and say, Coach, I only ran 10 flat today for the same distance and time and everything, okay? That would be better than to run too fast. Let's take a look why. If you could go back to the main Word doc so I can check where I am. Okay, we're going to do that. We're going to do the strides at the end and our core work. So, we're going to talk just very briefly about aerobic threshold training and the fuel sources that are being used and why this makes a difference. Why I'm like, guys, go a little bit slower, okay? Very quick reminder, that's to remind me that I have something to look at, okay? What we're dealing with here today, we've seen this for the last little bit. Yesterday, we were right at VO2 max. It was a VO2 max test, okay? Today we're down here in easy running. Tomorrow we're going to be in tempo running, lactic threshold. We do fly 30s on Thursday, back down to an easy run, and a long run with some hills on Friday, Saturday. Okay, so that's a reminder of where we are today. 65 to 70%. Those of you guys that have been running for longer than a year, not at a year, Manny and Danny, longer than a year, that's why I give you right at 70%. Yeah. This is what a carbohydrate molecule looks like, okay? It's pretty basic, it's pretty simple, okay? Click 1 to the right, Brady.
Wait, how to do that?
Arrow.
Wait, what? Oh.
Arrow.
Okay.
That is what one fat molecule looks like.
I thought this is what.
Okay? Click back again to carbohydrate. Do you see why your body would be easier able to break that down and turn it into a fuel versus that? Okay? This is the same, same thing that you're trying to use. You're trying to break it down to turn it into ATP so your muscles can fire. This is fat molecule, much more complex. Go back to the first one here. Much easier to break down, okay? It's 4 calories per gram, okay? We only store about 2 hours worth of it though, as glycogen. Only 2 hours worth of it, all right? And it's stored as glycogen, okay? Very simple, so it's used at high intensities, like what you guys were doing yesterday, which is why I said yesterday was a carbohydrate day. It's used on anything from tempo run or faster. So aerobic threshold is the threshold and when your body burns this, and click 1 to the right, this evenly. It's 1 to 1. I can burn both because it's so low intensity. That's why I say the volume is the key on this day, because your body is using equal parts this to carbohydrates. You start going into 75, 78%, okay? If Alex were to go out there today and start running 8:45, your body can no longer use this. It is too complex for it to use at high intensities. It's gonna say, screw this nonsense. I can't break this down fast enough to turn it into energy. I'm going back to the carbohydrates because it's so easy to use, okay? That doesn't really make a difference. It doesn't really matter except for the fact that, okay, so this is 9 calories per gram. There's more going on here. We can store days worth of fat. That's why you hear people that get, lost in the wilderness and they didn't have food for a long time and they don't die as long as they have water.
Because they're fat.
It's because you've got this. for days. How many hours of glycogen do we have? 2 hours. That's it. That's why we want your body to use as much this as the other fuel source as we can, so that we can spare that glycogen for tomorrow when we're doing a tempo run, and we can only use glycogen. Your body will not use fat, or if it does, it's so little that it doesn't matter. Yeah. Type of fuel source, if you click one more to the right, is protein. Okay, that's what protein looks like. Okay, zoom in just a little bit because this is the
meat here.
Okay, it's mostly body structures. It's still 4 calories per gram. Second most abundant or biggest part of your body, except for water. It's what it used to repair after workout. That's why I say on things like hill runs, fly 30s, not only is it the fuel source on fly 30s, but it's to repair muscle damage. Okay, it's only used as a fuel when you're starving, meaning this is not really an option for us here because nobody here is starving. Okay, so these are the only 3 things your body can really use. Okay, creatine phosphate does fuel the alactic system from animal protein on fly 30 days. That's the only exception to that. Does that make sense to everybody?
Sí, señor.
Okay. Do you see why I'm saying slower is better on the days that are designed to be easy?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Some of you guys kind of heard or saw as we were doing it, we were able to talk and joke and laugh. That's the test that you're in the right zone if you don't have the VO2 max test. Jania, you look either captivated or confused. Which is it?
I'm just 100% listening.
Okay, cool. Just wanted to make sure. All right. Okay. We talked about peaking, fuel sources. Okay. For everybody except Jackson, okay, because Jared and Thomas are in this book, I want anybody that has a Garmin watch, a GPS watch, to start tracking their miles for the week. I started telling Jania to do this last week. Try and make sure that I'm on point with you guys. Your long run should be 20 to 22% of your total weekly volume in one shot. So last week, Jania ran 40 miles and she ran 8 miles on Saturday. That's perfect. Jackson's group has a 50-mile week, so they're going to run 10 miles on Saturday. If this starts to be out of whack, meaning I'm only taking you to like 17%, 15% for some reason, like the long run's just not long enough because I'm underestimating some of the other days, then we're not really doing a long run, and that's probably the most important the second most important workout of the week. And conversely, if this starts to become 25 to 27%, now you're going to need more recovery than I'm anticipating. So I want to make sure everybody's on point. The way I'm coming up with everybody's time is whatever the first group's time is that also matches up with their distance, I'm assuming that if I give that to you guys, it's going to be about the same. Track it day to day, or at the very least, if you guys have a Garmin, there's a free app that will literally just calculate your weekly miles for you, okay? So help me help you on this by just keeping track. And if you notice that it's out of this window, just let me know and we'll make that adjustment.
So I just want to take you through a couple of things that you heard in the team meeting and then through an actual long run. So this is one of the slides I was showing. This is the carbohydrate, the very simple molecule that your body wants to use during high intensity. And it's used on your tempo or your middle, medium type of workouts to your faster days. And then as I mentioned, this is what fat looks like, just as a closer look. These 3 branch chains, all of this. So this is great at storing energy, 9 calories per gram, where the carbohydrate is only 4 per gram. But because it's so complex, you can just really see how much more is going on here with this than the carbohydrate. Your body is not going to want to use it at that really, really fast intensity. So just wanted you to get a closer look at that. And that's protein. Again, your body only uses that when it's starving. Or it does use creatine phosphate, which comes from animal protein on the fly 30 days or the alactic days, if you've seen those videos previously that we've posted. So just take you through a little bit, one of our long runs. Now, we did a long run up in St. Leo just after, around when we had these paces that I'm showing you off to the left, just to show you what you're looking for from these long runs. Long run sounds like it's pretty easy. You just go out and you run for a long period of time, but there are right ways and wrong ways to do anything. Simple doesn't necessarily mean unimportant. This is either the most important or the second most important workout of the day for your 3,200 meter and your 1,600 meter kid, definitely your 3,200 meter kid, part and parcel with those VO2 max aerobic power intervals that are so critically important for those race distances. So one of the things I mentioned and didn't really emphasize enough in that meeting that you saw is the long run needs to be 20 to 22% of your weekly volume, or you're just not getting as much out of it. Then it's not a long run, it's just a long recovery run, and you're leaving something on the table. So 20 to 22% of your total weekly volume all in one shot. And what's really important is if you do stop, for a drink or something like that, that it's a very quick stop. 30 seconds, no more than a minute, because when your heart rate starts to drop out of the range we're looking for, that 120 to 150 beats per minute, the problem that you have is that's the whole training effect, is the continuous nature. This is low intensity, high volume. So the reason why this works is you get the adaptations from 20 plus continuous minutes in this training zone. If you go out and you run after 20 continuous minutes in this training zone, your heart releases a protein-like hormone, which gets a lot of the aerobic adaptations we're looking for. Bigger heart, most specifically the left ventricle, more capillaries, more mitochondria, all the things you're really looking for. If you go out and you run for, say, 25 minutes, stop for 2, and then run for 25, you've really only gotten about 10 minutes of really good aerobic development. There are other things going on there, but the true, really critical aerobic development pieces we're looking for are being missed in that second restart of the 20 minutes. So this was a day, as we've mentioned previously in these videos, we're in just north of Tampa, Florida here at Wharton High School. So we usually have pretty warm weather, but we had some fantastic weather for this long run we did. St. Leo is a little bit north of us. There are some hills, so we do go up there. It's hard to find good hills in Florida. So it was just kind of a fantastic day for this, in which we didn't really have to stop at all, or if we did, it was very, very quick. Most of the kids didn't even want to stop halfway through. So this was a long run designed to be for about 70 minutes. I try to handicap it to where, as you heard in the team meeting, everybody's running the same distance, but because the intensity changes from their VO2 max, their distance is going to be affected. So take a look at this. This is from Dana down here. She is supposed to be 11:20 to 10:30. She went her 70 minutes, and she's 11:04. That is spot on perfect for the average, and that is an important thing for your tempo runs, your continuous runs like this, your recovery runs. The overall average is probably the most important thing. You've heard me on the VO2 max interval videos. You want every rep in the range, not just the average. But what can happen, if you look at this, is, so for Dana, she was 10:10 on the first mile. We come back down here. That was a little bit too fast. First mile, it's a long run. It's bound to happen. She brings it down to 11:08 for the second mile, so she's in range. 11:06, good. 11:41, this is actually where the bigger parts of the hills are, so I'm not that concerned with it. But what you don't want to have happen is, say it's a flat run where it shouldn't be regressing. You go too fast and then you go too slow. You don't really want that to happen either. So she was a little bit out of the range, but nothing too crazy. 11:24, just barely out of the range. That's basically running your time. 11:09, she's back in range, and then 10:37, she's back in range here. So while a little bit of it was out of the range, for the most part, Dana did fantastically on this. Still kind of getting used to the longer type of continuous nature of these runs, but did a great job here. Couple more kids I do want to point out. This is from a group, Kevin and Ethan, so they are paired together because their VO2 max is identical, so it just kind of works out that way. Don't group these kids for the reasons of their best friend is at this point. Group them because it makes sense because of where they are here. So ran for 70 minutes. And the average pace here is 10 flat. So as we look at that, that is a little bit out of the range here. I would actually prefer that if we're having a little bit of an issue, because the one indicator here that we're looking for is 120 to 150. They were a little bit out of that range. I would rather it be a little bit slower and keep that in the safe range, as long as the nature of it is still continuous and long. The hills may have adjusted a little bit. Obviously, if you're running a VO2 max test on a flat area or a track or something like that, if you go out on a course, it's going to be some percentage harder. This was a long run that had some hills involved with it, so that could happen. But this is what I would prefer. What I wouldn't want is for them to come back and tell me they ran 9 flat and it was kind of hard at the end. So just like with Dana, they were a little bit too aggressive on the first one, brought it in range, slipped out. Again, this was the hardest of the terrain for this run. Kind of got a little bit back closer, so a little bit too slow, a little bit too slow, a little bit too slow. But again, probably this is what's going on. Now, you do have to be careful. These kids told me that they were checking their run during the actual workout itself. 120 to 150 is if you were counting during the run for 10 seconds, 20 to 25. I do encourage the kids to do that. These heart rate monitors that are worn on the wrist, which is what this is coming from, their actual watch, notoriously unreliable. They can give you an idea, but you really want to spot check. If you have a kid that has one, or you're doing this in yourself, a heart rate monitor that goes around the chest, that is much more accurate. Still not perfect. The best way is to actually count. And they told me that they were feeling that they were getting a little bit out of it. That's why you saw the regression kind of stay down here. So certainly not bad at all. Certainly got what they needed on this day. And this is what you would prefer, a little bit slower. 9:59, 9:55 to 9:15 was the prescribed range, especially considering the terrain that they were running on. And we'll close it out here with our 4-year senior Jackson Blanchard's run. So 70 minutes, he went 9.12. This is just to re-emphasize what we're dealing with here in terms of the total volume for the week. 20 to 22% needs to be in your long run. If you're not going 20 to 22% of your total weekly volume in the long run, you're leaving aerobic development on the table. Jackson had a 45-mile a week, capped out with this workout. A little bit longer, really said 20 to 22%. 9 would be right at 20%. Absolutely fantastic, and it correlated perfectly. As I mentioned, really nice day for us to get this run in, 59 degrees. So Jackson is looking for 740, is what he did run, and we were looking for 740 to 735. Jackson and Thomas pair up on this. They're basically the same VO2 max as they're doing this. Now, again, just to sort of reemphasize this, do not allow, I mean, these were our top 3 in cross country. They've been running together for 3 years, junior, senior. Do not let, if you have a kid like Jared here, run with this group. You will not be doing a service to Jared. If you're a coach that likes to ride on the bike, you may have to kind of just push this kid on your own and keep them on point and make sure they don't, because I have to deal with Jared with this sometimes. Sometimes he wants to go a little too fast. Make sure that they're in this range that you're giving them here. And as you'll notice, the kids that have been running for a number of years, they have that tighter range. I put them right at 70%. What we do at our school is I try and run the first at least half of the run with Jared and then turn them loose and kind of turn back and work with the other kids. Sometimes it works out better than others depending on the run. But just don't let, if you've got a kid that is 25 seconds VO2 max faster than other kids, don't let them run together. Don't let a kid like David, a kid who's really been improving very, very nicely here, he's been running for about a month, don't let him get reckless and try and run with Jackson and Thomas that day. Really emphasize that point of your pace is the right pace. The right workout pace is always more important than the fastest workout pace of the day. So that's sort of the point here. It was a fantastic run for all of these kids. They really enjoy this run. It's kind of a different change of scenery that we can only get up to on the weekends, and they did just a fantastic job. So if you like this video, please think about liking or subscribing. If you have any questions, please ask them in the comments down below. And until next time, this has been Coachy TV.